Mama moi di oku. A beg give me 8, a beg give me 3, mama di mama. Agatha was known in St. Teresa's secondary boarding school, not by her real name, but by the nickname that had become a song on every student's lips, Mama moi di oku. The name carried a certain rhythm, a certain authority. Whenever students shouted it across the canteen, it was always laced with excitement, because they knew what it meant: hot, steaming moi that seemed to melt on the tongue and fill the stomach better than anything else sold within the school walls. Her stall was modest, nothing more than a wooden table with a large aluminum pot balanced on top. But no one cared for appearances. What mattered was the food, and Agatha's moi was different. It had a rich, smoky aroma that clung to the air, drawing even those who had not planned to eat. The leaves were wrapped tightly, the contents perfectly firm yet tender. Other food sellers struggled to empty half of their stock each day, while Agatha's pot was scraped clean before the first bell for afternoon classes. To the casual eye, it was the product of skill, experience, and perhaps a little luck. But beneath the surface, there was something darker, a secret Agatha guarded with her very life. It had begun months earlier, when Agatha noticed how her fortunes were dwindling. She had once sold a kara by the roadside before deciding to try her hand at moi. At first, sales were fair, but not enough to take care of her 3 children at home. Every evening she returned with unsold food, her shoulders sagging under the weight of disappointment. Her competitors laughed, mocking her failure. Some even told her bluntly that she should give up, that perhaps canteen business was not her destiny. Agatha, however, was stubborn. She believed destiny was not something handed to anyone freely. It was something you fought for, even if the fight took you into dark corners. And so, when she met Uche, the mortuary attendant at St. Jude's Hospital, she came with an evil suggestion that changed everything. Uche was a wiry man, with hollow cheeks and eyes that always seemed to hide secrets of their own. He had worked in the mortuary for years, scrubbing bodies, dressing them, preparing them for burial. To most people, he was invisible, a shadow people ignored, because his job was tied to death. But Agatha saw him as an opportunity. It was on a rainy evening when their deal began. Agatha had gone to the hospital to visit a sick relative, and while waiting outside the mortuary block, she struck a conversation with Uche. One thing led to another, and she confessed how desperate she was to save her business. Uche then gave her a suggestion that Agatha hooked up immediately. "There is a special kind of water people don't understand," he said. "The water used to wash the dead. It carries power. Some say it opens doors where doors have been locked. You want sales? You want people to rush your food? Use that water." Initially, Agatha refused to pick up that evil suggestion because the thought was revolting, even terrifying. But that night, as she lay awake on her raffia mat, she remembered the mocking faces of her rivals and the hungry eyes of her children. Desperation hardened her heart, and before morning she has already made up her mind. She sought Uche out and struck an agreement. For a small fee, he would always give her the water from the mortuary after bathing the corpses. The first time she used it in her moi mixture, her hands trembled. The smell was ordinary, like any other water. She tried to convince herself that maybe it wasn't real, maybe Uche had lied. But when she sold out her entire pot before noon that day, something inside her shifted. For the first time in months, she had money to take home. For the first time, she walked past her fellow vendors with her chin raised high. From that day forward, it became her ritual. Each evening, she collected the wster discreetly from Uche. Each dawn, before the first rays of sun reached the canteen, she mixed the beans with that cursed water. And each afternoon, she smiled as coins and notes filled her wrapper fold. The students adored her. They chanted her name in the corridors. "Mama moi di oku, save some for me, oh." Her fame spread like a miracle. Even teachers began to join the cur during break, claiming her moi was softer, tastier, almost addictive. Her stall became the pride of the canteen. Her moi became the most wanted food in the whole canteen, as both students, teachers, and other staffs always quay up and struggle to buy her own moi every day. Even when Agatha changes location inside the school, the students will still find her and buy from her. The students ate, the teachers ate. But all of a sudden, the students started falling sick. It began quietly, almost too quietly to be noticed. At first, it was just 1 or 2 students complaining of stomach pain after break time. They clutched their bellies, groaning in the dormitories, chalking it up to overeating or perhaps bad drinking water from the school taps. Within days, however, the sickness spread like ripples in a pond. Students who had rushed to the canteen suddenly found themselves doubled over in pain hours later. Some developed fevers that left them shivering on their bunks. Others vomited through the night, their cries echoing across the dormitories until housemasters had no choice but to rush them to the school clinic. The clinic beds filled quickly. The matron, a stern woman with glasses that constantly slid down her nose, grew restless. "Something is wrong," she muttered as she scribbled prescriptions and handed out bitter concoctions. "So many students falling sick at the same time. It cannot just be coincidence." But no one pointed a finger at the canteen, much less at Agatha. After all, she was a familiar face, a motherly figure. She always laughed with the children, always tied their leaf wraps neatly, always told them, "Eat well, my pickin', make you strong." Who would suspect her? The other vendors noticed the pattern too, though their thoughts were bitterly twisted with suspicion. They watched as students who bought from Agatha returned pale and weak. Yet even with the rumours of sickness spreading, the students kept going back to her stall. By the second week, the situation grew worse. Classrooms became half empty, with students excused to rest in the dorms. The other vendors began whispering seriously behind her back, already suspecting her for all the sudden sickness in the school. "This sickness, no ordinary," Madam Rose hissed. "Students day full sick steady, but her pot still day empty every day. Something day inside her food." Baba Kunle nodded grimly. "But who go talk? If you accuse her and you no get proof, the whole school go turn against you." They agreed and met with the principal to put a close eye on Agatha if he wants to know the problem behind his students, sudden sickness of his students. It was a hard decision for the principal, as he has already trusted Agatha to be a saint, but this time he finally put away emotions and agreed to investigate Agatha. And then the drama begins. What Agatha didn't know was that her routine had drawn eyes. The weeks of sickness in the school had created unease, and the principal, desperate to uncover the cause, had ordered a quiet investigation. The matron, through the order of the principal, also already suspicious of the canteen food, they had no proof. But whispers from the other vendors had pointed them in Agatha's direction. The dawn that would change everything began like any other. The roosters had barely crowed when Agatha rose from her raffia mat. She tied her wrapper tightly around her waist, adjusted her headscarf, and lit the kerosene stove. The familiar clinking of pots filled the small kitchen as she prepared her beans for grinding. But on this particular morning, there was something different in the air. Something heavy, watchful. She ignored it. Her mind was fixed on the black keg hidden under the wooden bench. As always, Uche had delivered it the night before, the black plastic container still damp from the mortuary floor. Agatha stared at it for a moment, her eyes narrowing, before she bent down and dragged it out. The liquid inside sloshed as she uncapped it. There was no foul smell, nothing that could betray what it truly was. To her, it looked no different from ordinary water. Yet, in the dim light of the kitchen, it seemed to ripple with an unnatural shimmer, as though mocking her. She shook off the thought, poured it into the bowl of beans, and began to stir. What Agatha didn't know was that her routine had drawn eyes. As she poured the mortuary water into her mixture, 3 figures stood outside her kitchen window, hidden in the shadows. The matron, the vice principal, and one of the canteen supervisors. They had followed Agatha earlier when she went to collect the water from Ooch, determined to catch her at her preparations. From the window, they saw everything, the keg, the pour, the deliberate stirring. Their eyes widened in disbelief. Their mouths hung open in silent horror. The matron clasped her hand over her lips to stifle a gasp. The vice principal's face hardened, rage building in his chest. "Jesu," the supervisor whispered. "So not true." Inside, Agatha hummed softly to herself, oblivious. Her wooden spoon moved in circles, each turn binding her deeper into the net of her own destruction. She added spices, salt, pepper, and a dash of palm oil. The mixture thickened, smooth and perfect for steaming. To her, it was business as usual. To the watchers, it was evidence of evil laid bare. The matron banged in, her voice trembling with anger. "Agatha!" she shouted, her voice piercing the morning air. Agatha jumped, the spoon clattering from her hand. She turned sharply, her eyes darting to the window, where the 3 figures now stood fully visible. Her heart pounded in her chest. What are you people doing here this early?" she stammered, trying to mask her fear. The vice principal stormed inside, his eyes blazing. He pointed at the keg. "What is this, Agatha? What have you been using?" Agatha froze, her lips quivering. "It's just water, ordinary water," she muttered, backing away slowly. "Lies!" the matron snapped, stepping forward. We saw you get the water from the mortuary attendant. That is not ordinary water. That is corpse water, isn't it? From the mortuary." The room fell silent, the accusation hanging heavy in the air. Agatha's knees buckled. She tried to speak, to deny, but the words tangled in her throat. The supervisor bent, lifted the keg, and sniffed cautiously. His face twisted in disgust. "I've heard of it before," he said grimly. "Some wicked people use it for juju. Now we know why her stall never lacks customers. Now we know why our children have been sick." Agatha's mouth opened and closed like a trapped fish. Her eyes darted from face to face, searching for mercy, but all she found was fury. The matron's voice shook with grief as she said, "How could you, Agatha? These are children, innocent children, and you feed them death." Tears streamed down Agatha's face. I only wanted to survive," she whispered. "Business was failing. My children were hungry. Uche told me it would bring sales. I didn't mean for anyone to be harmed." The vice principal's face darkened further. "You mean you didn't care? You sold your soul for money. You turned food into poison." By now, voices had begun to gather outside. Neighbours drawn by the shouting peeked into the doorway. Whispers spread quickly like wildfire. Within minutes, students passing by stopped to listen. Soon, the entire compound buzzed with the scandal unravelling before their eyes. "Mama moi di oku?" one boy cried in shock. "Nashi?" Another student covered her mouth in horror. "No wonder we day always sick. Jesus Christ." Agatha's secret, long hidden behind steaming leaves and sweet smiles, now lay naked before the world. The matron grabbed Agatha by the arm. "This ends today. You will never sell another wrap in this school." The crowd outside grew larger, murmurs turning to shouts, shouts into outrage. Students, teachers, even fellow vendors pressed forward, their faces twisted with anger and disbelief. The woman they had once trusted, the motherly figure who had fed them, had betrayed them all.